We have been bombarded
that we are completely unaware of.
Maybe not loving our body.
with messaging that tells us
And instantly,
that no matter what we feel about our body,
We each have our own,
it is probably wrong.
and it's uniquely yours.
Hey there, welcome to Truth Be Told. I'm Reverend Dan. We are Soul Evolution Collaborative, and this is our weekly video series where we come on live and offer some hopefully fun and uplifting, inspirational messaging about the theme for this week in our community. And so this month, we are looking at the body, a body of wisdom. The wisdom that is within our body. And this week we are taking a look at the idea of what it would be like to love our bodies, something that for some of us is new. For some of us, we have been attempting to practice for years and everything in between. So we are taking a look at what does it really mean to step away from the shoulds of the past, all the messaging that the world has shown us for decades, as it turns out, about what our body should be and shouldn't be, and it should be thinner and bigger and smaller and eat this, don't eat this, and all that crazy stuff. And you should feel about yourself all of these positive things all the time, or nothing at all. And so to fall in love with our body, we are hoping to get to the message of not just another should about you should love your body, but a message that says there is a process of falling in love with our body that we are being invited to visit and look at and play along with. What would it be like to fall madly and deeply in love with ourselves, with our body, with this, the part of us that is also equally as spiritual as the rest of us that we think often is spiritual, but all of it equally as spiritual, equally as divine. What would it be like to live that way, to think that way, to breathe that way all the time? So here we go. Let's sit back and enjoy this episode of Truth Be Told.
loving our bodies. This can be a challenge. It's interesting. I'm beginning more and more to see this idea of self-love with respect to the physical body is a bit of a journey, isn't it? I think sometimes we think that we want to move from this space of maybe not loving our body, and then instantly we do the right thing, or we wear the right thing, or we put in some sort of formula, and all of a sudden, yes, I love my body. And I wish that was the case, but it's not. It is a journey. It's a process. Because you know what? Because my body today is different than my body 20 years ago. So my relationship to my body today is different than my relationship to my body 20 years ago. So of course, the way I love my body today is different than I loved my body 20 years ago. You kind of get the point. It's this idea that this activity of loving our bodies, loving, honoring, and appreciating our physical bodies is this ever-changing, fluid experience. And so the more that we learn about our bodies, the more we learn about the changes that occur in our bodies, whether over the span of years or maybe even over the course of a day, the more we develop a certain relationship with those things, the more that we can look at them with love. And it looks different in any given moment. And so this idea of self-love becomes this fluid experience. It's not a one and done deal, or it's not do the right thing and then you get self-love. But instead, it's this for me, I've learned that it's this constant activity of looking at my body. looking at my here and now body, releasing or trying to release this idea of what it should look like or what it should be able to do based on maybe a concept or something I've seen, or maybe a concept or how it operated in the past in any given circumstance or situation. And to appreciate it, appreciate the journey that I have had in this body and continue to have. And be able then to begin to see my body with the kind of the here and now eyes. Not a lens of 20 years ago, or not a lens of, well, 10 years from now, but instead looking at and loving my body with here and now eyes. And I think that that is the journey. And it takes practice, and it's not something that happens overnight. But instead, if we put our intention towards looking at our bodies, loving our bodies with the here and now eyes, we may begin to see a shift in our relationship with our bodies, a shift in our relationship of our understanding of how our body is part of this spiritual path. Our body is not separate from spirituality, but instead it is very beautifully intertwined with our experience in the here and now. And then we can begin to love our body more and more. Love your body.
Yeah, there's like it's like this warm feeling that kind of starts to bubble up. You know, I mean, I don't. It brought up more feelings than it did whole thoughts, but I love that idea of you know, your body today is not the same body as tomorrow, and you know, I'm sure there's some fact somewhere about how fast all your cells replicate, and in a certain amount of time, it's like literally a whole new body.
Yeah.
But just even that feeling of like not making it a milestone or a destination of like, you should feel this certain way already, and if you don't, you know, you're like behind, you need to catch up. You should be in love with your body. That's like a totally different thing than like, here is this ongoing process, you know, the journey of falling in love with your body. That feels like a whole other conversation, a whole other experience for me. And mind you, you know, like I've spent years already, like decades already, you know, in the relearning thought process, changing beliefs about my body, you know.
Well, and even looking at it as it's a relationship. So we have a relationship to this thing. And so I guess, you know, with that kind of metaphor of relationship, like how do you do that with a relationship with like a friend or a partner? Is this constant nurturing and looking and loving. And it is this journey of a deepening and a layered experience. And I think that if we can look at love in our bodies from that view, then you're right. Then it doesn't become another should that I'm like, oh, well, shit, I haven't been doing that. Well, you know, and so it doesn't become another should, but it becomes an opportunity to continue the process.
It just right now what you just said like shifted my focus of where like my mind's gone like 3 different places during all of this, during your segment. And this, you know, part of what just came up to me now is like that kind of like that dichotomy too, like when you say like it's relationship with you, but at the same time it like it is you. Mm-hmm. And so it's like that whole thing with like our higher self having a relationship with ourselves,
right,
and with the self-talk that we have to ourselves from ourselves, and it's kind of mind-blowing. But during the segment, what I really loved, well, okay, so this was the second thing that came up for me, was like the idea again of like the goalposts, you know, like I'll love my body, you know, when it's everything how I want it to be. Right. And then of course, you know, when you get there, then you see like what else it can be. And so then, you know, well, actually then I'll love it when I get here. And then on the flip side of that, when other people are like, today's the youngest you're ever going to be for the rest of life. So, people that, talk about like, well, it's all downhill from here. Like, no, if that's true, then like, why do I even want to try anymore? Yeah. How do we make it so? No, it's like each day better than the last. And I think that's through, nurturing that relationship. When I grew up, I was surrounded by lots of people, talked about age as was like a negative thing. Somebody in my close circle that was like, every year on their birthday, like, I'm 29 for the 10th time. I'm 29 for the, you're like, there's something wrong with being past that. But then you meet other people that, they're like, you're 69, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's so much better than the alternative. Getting old is great, because if I'm not getting old, what's that mean? It means that I'm no longer. I'm 6 feet under. So like that like changed my perspective a little bit of, appreciating the fact that, I'm getting older. That's pretty sweet. I'm still here.
Yeah. Well, and I read something today too that, this idea when we have these like, this contemplation, and we're contemplating, like even the topics that we're contemplating this month, that it's actually the divine contemplating itself. And that just kind of blew my mind. And so then this idea, to kind of take it a step further, this idea of loving our body, even the just opening the door to that is like this divine thing, this universal thing is loving itself, and so when we do that, when we set that intention or engage in that relationship of loving our bodies, then the very thought of that now is activated, not just in our own minds, but it's activated in the universe as a possibility. And so when we're able to embark on that journey, then we create the possibility for others to do the same, because now it's there. That possibility is there, has been collapsed, by the observation of it. And it just creates this really beautiful opportunity, not only as individuals, but this space for collectively, for us to change the language of our society, of these impresses that are so often kind of keep us into the shoulds. But it really creates this idea. And just think about, if we practice it and then other people practice it, and then it becomes this like complete shift. And I think that we're feeling that. I feel the energy of that. And so it's interesting to contemplate those things of being part of that shift. And that starts with me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so many thoughts, but I think it would give too much away.
Yeah. Pace ourselves.
Yes, for sure. This just in a shocking turn of events, many people are learning to love their bodies. For decades, we have been bombarded with messaging that tells us that no matter what we feel about our body, it is probably wrong. Gain weight? Lose weight. Bulk up by eating way too many hard-boiled eggs every day. Get smaller by smoking, apparently. Sweat it out with whatever this is. You should be more muscular, but not too much. Make sure you're on a diet. We finally have proof that it can work, but it probably won't. And whatever you do, don't look like a piece of fruit. No wonder there is massive shame going on around about our bodies. If nothing is ever right, and no matter what we do, it's not enough, what are we to do? For some, particularly those of us who are searching the spiritual path, gravitating towards beliefs that attempt to transcend the bodily experience, become appealing. A Course in Miracles tells us, the mind can be made free when it no longer sees itself as in a body, firmly tied to it and sheltered by its presence. Yes, the truth of me is something way greater than what all these crazy ads are trying to convince me of. Sign me up. But there is a danger here if we are not careful. Somewhere along the line, this belief, or beliefs like it, that separate the mind from the body, have led to an attempt at bypassing the human experience. At first, it sounds like a good idea. If I can convince myself that I am not actually this body, but I am something greater than it, then I don't have to face the discomfort of coming to terms with what I actually feel about this body. I don't have to be responsible for this worldly body. Screw it. And that sounds awesome. Except, we do have to be responsible for this worldly body. In fact, what's the point at all if we don't? Yes, I believe it is true. We are the thing that is something greater than we are, but what would be the point of life if it is all separate from that thing? What would be the point of being here if we weren't here to be the thing of life as life itself? You see, somehow, over time, this idea of mind separate from body led us astray by convincing us that the body is somehow not spiritual. And as this misbelief strengthened, it developed into a measurement of our spirituality. Experiencing an illness, you're doing it wrong. Overweight, you're doing it wrong. Too thin, you're doing it wrong. Pain, you're doing it wrong. If you are experiencing anything at all in your body that is not what is true in the realm of the absolute, then somehow you must be doing it all wrong. You are not spiritual enough, right? Well, hopefully that is not what is actually being taught anywhere, but that is certainly what is insinuated in many of the unspoken parts. The commonly held belief in New Thought, and often seen as the only and maybe correct belief, is that the body is not spiritual, and that is a lie. It is easy to deny the body, to rid ourselves of responsibility, or to avoid discomfort, but this only lasts a little while. The reality is that we are only separating ourselves from understanding our bodies. We are not separate from our bodies. We are not separate from our beliefs about our bodies, and we are not separate from the experience of our bodies. In attempting to separate our mind from our body, we have only successfully suppressed the experience. And in the reality of the spiritual path we have been seeking, we are only depriving ourselves of the full experience of life. Yet there is another voice and perspective along this path, one that has been eclipsed by the louder social measuring stick that has been, "How spiritual are you?" This other voice, which is not new by any means, encourages us to recognize the full experience of the spiritual life, which must include the body. In fact, it suggests that the whole point of being here as that something greater than us is so that we can see and be and experience that same life. We are it experiencing itself. Christian author Christopher Smith says in his book, How the Body of Christ Talks, "As the body of Christ, we are learning what it means to belong to one another and to work together, just as all the parts of the human body belong to one another and work together for the health and growth of that body. Our bodies, created in the image of the triune God, have much to teach us about the virtues of conversation. The human body is a wondrous symphony of diverse parts, 206 bones, and over 600 muscles, controlled by more than 1 billion neurons and energized by 60,000 miles of veins and arteries in the circulatory system, enough to circle the globe twice. These intricate parts work together in a harmonious conversation, mobilizing our body and striving for its health." Founder of the Science of Mind teaching, Ernest Holmes, says, "All is one. Thoughts and feelings mesh into creative beliefs, which then outpicture as qualities of personal experience. Mind and body are a unified whole. Earth and her inhabitants interrelate in ways we had not imagined. And the bottom of it all is not some tiny originating stuff as at the bottom of a cup of tea, but pure and intelligent energy that layers itself as patterns on into infinity, universal mind." Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Look deeply into the nature of an elementary particle. Scientists have discovered that sometimes it manifests as a wave and sometimes a particle, but also that the wave and the particle are the same thing. The wave is true with mind and body. We see that body is mind, mind is body. What happens to the body also happens to the mind, and vice versa. Body and mind are not two separate entities, they are one. Walt Whitman, if life and the soul are sacred, the human body is sacred. Emmett Fox in the Sermon on the Mount says, it is when health is broken down and ordinary medical means have failed to afford relief that people seriously set about gaining the spiritual understanding of the body as the true embodiment of divine life. Instead of striving for the perfect body, let's realize our perfect body. It already exists as it is. It is time for us to shift our beliefs towards wholeness and the divine perfection that already exists as you are right now. This has been In Other News. Thanks for watching.
So I'm seeing like the evolution of the New Thought philosophy, like right now, like through us. Like the Emmett Fox, great, like talking about like when everything else failed, like doctors and everything else, that we like get serious about our spirituality. How back in the early New Thought leaders, like that was a lot of what brought people into the teaching was some sort of physical ailment or something that they wanted to find the way to cure or to heal. And I think, like you were talking about, that we kind of presented that image that says, you should be this, you should think of that, or your thought, you're doing it wrong, you're thinking it wrong.
Yeah.
But then, I think like for the longest time, like that was kind of new information and philosophy that, like our thoughts really do have effect over how our body outpictures, to a certain extent, but then, it had gotten so locked in on that, now it's your fault. If anything goes wrong with you, it's
right
100% you. And we're like, but, negating what we're now, discovering like, it's a little more complex than that. Yes, we have influence over it, but it's not the be all end all, that there's lots of different things all interacting with it. So,
well, and certainly I think there's room for, if someone were to take that much like ownership over their experience and convince themselves like every thought I have actually pans out, actually outpictures, and like they so deeply believe that, I mean, I think you literally could change. I mean, we've seen that, especially with things like illness, and someone's gonna heal themselves of something, and it does happen, but it does take that, like, such a conviction of it for that to be true. And so when that became like the goal for everyone else who's not, if we're not there, or if we weren't able to get there yet, or whatever, like there's so much thought, collective thought, the collective unconscious that says like, are you sure? And that little bit of doubt just, cancels that whole thing.
Well, and we even create this ideal too. And so sometimes when you create this ideal, then it really kind of negates, or not negates, but it really kind of speaks kind of against this idea of wholeness. So, there is not, we have different bodies, we have different experiences in those bodies, and it all represents the whole. Yeah. And so I think the part of the journey of loving our body and the relationship is that understanding that our bodies are also like the microcosm of that wholeness. And so that, and it's reflected in just all the wide varieties of bodies that we see, and so to negate one for the other, or to love this one and not that one, it really kind of, it's not in alignment with what, as religious scientists, as science of mind, what we believe in this wholeness. And so that how that gets outpictured is in our bodies. And sometimes our bodies maybe don't do the things we want them to do, or maybe they do some things that we would rather they don't do, and to be able to also view that in the lens of wholeness, because I think that is kind of along the process of this relationship and loving our bodies. If we can catch that glimpse of that wholeness.
Yeah. And isn't that the bridge between the conversation we just started a couple minutes ago and like whatever the next idea is, right? So like Chris, you were saying how, when we're having a thought, it's the thing observing itself having that thought, but the thought actually comes from, like, where does the thought come from, right? And so the same thing with our bodies. Like if our physical experience is the way that the thing experiences itself, because this all is the thing itself, right? Like there's this whole like elevating of our collective awareness, an embodiment of this idea that, like, yeah, we are the thinker, we are the thing thinking, but we are also the thing, like we are being thought. We are the little t thing that's thinking. We're also the capital T thing that is thinking. So we are the place where the thought that is being had is being transmitted down and out, right? Like it's all one thing. We are the being having the thought here, observing ourselves having the thought, so that we know what the thought is, right? Like it just becomes this swirl of like, whoa. What?
Well, and it does that kind of that mindset, doesn't it kind of it allows us to kind of loosen our grip on the shoulds, because if it's all this thing doing what it is supposed to do or what it does through us, then we can take a deep breath.
Yeah, it might not matter so much the thing that we don't like, whether it's actually what we want it to be or not. And like, let's plant a seed and create a new thing, create a new experience, but then maybe not fool ourselves when the things show up that are unlike that experience that we might have to like sift through first to have the thing, right? I think so often, like, we plant a seed, we create a new idea, and then something shows up unlike that idea, and we go, it didn't work. Like, wait, no, it's working. It's working right now. That's the thing. And so how true is that with our body too? Like that idea of enjoying the journey of falling in love. It's not about being in love with your whole body. It's about the journey of loving your body and how it's showing up right now. And that feels new to me.
And even coming back to that love, because we can get off track, or we can go down to whatever the default thinking based on any past relationship with our body. But how amazing is it the coming back? They're like, isn't that funny? We sometimes we'll have these moments of like, of course that worked, So that feeling of coming back. And so I think that's what loving our bodies is. I think that journey is that coming back, the coming back. It's not so much how often that we get sidetracked, but it's that coming back that is really a beautiful experience in loving the body.
I heard it somewhere just recently in this last week, and what both of you just said there brought it all back for me. That idea that yes, the body is part of the divine, that we are. And so when we are holding like thoughts of it, like, oh, my body's awful, like right there, I'm saying like God or whatever you believe is awful, or if you're strong in the Christian philosophy that that you adhere to, like Jesus being God, and would you ever say that to Jesus? That
Jesus,
you're awful. So like what we're saying to our body, we're kind of negating that which we supposedly revere.
I think it demonstrates the depth at which this idea of mind and body separation really exists in our society, right? Like I think like a lot of us have come along to like recognizing the thought that like it's the same, and yet there's so much deeply seated belief, like the ones that like lurk around the corner you don't really see, the ones that like show up. They sneak it. It shows up in our language. It just peeks its head out here and there, and we're like, damn. Yeah, it's those that we got to start picking at now.
We would like to take a quick break from the program to let you know a little bit about SEC. We are an intentional spiritual community with a vision of personal transformation and communal evolution, an authentic way of being, living, and viewing the world. Everything you could ever possibly want to know and more can be found on our website at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. So come along for the adventure. Tuesday we have Truth Be Told at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is what you're enjoying now. Thursday, we have our small group, The Gathering, at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so this is a group experience where we take an even closer look at the topic for the week, how it shows up in our own personal lives, and the healing and transformative power of belonging and connection. On Sundays, we have Strip Down Sunday at 12:30 Eastern, where we offer a streamlined approach to your Sunday morning experience through a short and sweet talk on the weekly theme. And coming soon, our SEC Second Sunday Experience, a Sunday evening experience that will demonstrate a new way of doing community. Be on the lookout for these events and so much more. If you can't already tell, we have a blast here at SEC. It's so much fun to explore these topics with you each and every week. And it's our desire to not only share what we've learned, but to journey alongside each of you as we navigate this adventure we call life. Our vision is to bring these teachings to everyday life in new and powerful ways. If you would like to support the vision of SEC and its continued evolution, we invite you to go to soulevolutioncollaborative.org and click on the donate button. All donations are tax deductible and serve to support this evolving ministry and its vision of personal transformation and communal evolution. And now, back to the show.
We'll get there. Back to the show. Please.
I bet you didn't know that the liver can regenerate itself. Yeah, you can have over half of your liver removed and it will grow back to full size within a few weeks. And the amazing thing is you can take half of that liver off, transplant it to somebody else, and it will grow to a full-size liver in that person too. Really amazing. Now here's something else that maybe you didn't know. Your body, or actually your mouth, knows that you're gonna vomit before you do. About 30 to 45 seconds before a person vomits, your mouth begins making saliva. Now you've probably noticed that before, but maybe you didn't know why that happens. Well, here's the reason. That stomach acid that we have is so corrosive that it would cause problems in our esophagus, in our mouth, our gums, even eat away at our teeth if we didn't have something there to neutralize it. So when you feel like, and all of a sudden I just threw up. Well, here's the thing, it really wasn't all of a second. Your mouth knew it before you did, before the experience happened. Pretty amazing. One last thing that's pretty amazing is all the things that our body does that we are unaware of. Every day, viruses, bacteria, even lesions on our cells that could develop into cancer down the road. These things happen every day and our body fights it off for the most part every single day. It does this, but we don't notice because when everything is going right, we tend to not notice these things. Now, of course, if you're having a health concern right now, that's kind of sucky information to hear. But I want to draw our attention to the ways that our bodies are doing amazing things that we are completely unaware of. Because that's what we're talking about this month is living everyday wonder of the body. And this week it's loving this body or loving your body. We each have our own and it's uniquely yours and nobody else's. And maybe we have not the best relationship with it because of our culturalization or things that we've told ourselves about our body growing up. So this is our month and our opportunity to deepen that relationship because the body, it's mind, body, soul. And sometimes we kind of lose track of the body thinking, that for enlightenment, you're going to transcend the body. But no, body's part of it. This whole experience of life requires all three things. And as we learned from emotions last month, the body is constantly communicating with us. It is a tool to enhance and enrich this experience of life that's all around us. So I thought by bringing up some interesting facts of how amazing your body is, that might help develop a deeper relationship with it. For me, this is a new thing to really pay attention to. I don't know where you're coming from. It's been around for a long time. People that practice yoga or tantra or other, body awareness practices, good for you. For me, I have not had a whole lot of experience on that. So this month I'm excited to lean into this and really develop an appreciation for all the things that this body does that in the past I have not even held appreciation for.
Oh man, it's a good thing we have fun. The only thing that came to my mind in the beginning of that segment, y'all watched How I Met Your Mother?
No, I mean I know the concept though.
Yeah, so I mean most of it's really stupid, but there was one episode where Ted is like super proud of the fact that he's been vomit free since '93. And like, I don't know, it just got me like, I just had this spiral all of a sudden of like, yeah, I think I view vomiting as a bad thing, but that's probably a really like miraculous function of the body that evolved way before modern medicine, that if you happen to ingest anything that's bad for you, that stuff's coming right back out,
Well, it goes to the wisdom of the body, right? Like, which is what we talked about last week.
Talk about the things we take for granted, it's just fascinating. And the fact that like the body's going to take care of itself so you don't like burn a hole in your esophagus because of it.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Like when the body does body things.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, and I think also part of loving the body is recognizing those things, like recognizing these like fail safes that the body has, and I think that, that's, a superficial sort of understanding of loving the body. But I think it's important to understand. I think it's also important in bridging this idea that our spirit is out here and our body is here, but know that it actually is all working and functioning and kind of
can we see it
connected? Yeah.
Can we see it in all of the experiences?
Yes.
Body, why would you do this to me?
Oh my God. Yeah.
You're saving me from this poison that I ingested.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I've had those experiences, like when the body knows, we appreciate when the body does make us aware of those things. It's just another opportunity to appreciate, another opportunity to kind of like, for me, I always kind of lived this kind of separate from the body sort of thing. And a lot of that was kind of just growing up that way, and some belief systems that, I was exposed to. And so there's nothing like those body things to like slam you into this awareness. Oh, I have a body. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. It's not this sort of separate experience, but it is like this free flow tandem, couples dance. Couples skating sort of experience, our spirit and our body. So it's very interesting. But I like the I always love good vomit facts, and so that was
random bodily
fluid. Last week was spit, and so
five bathtubs in a lifetime.
I'm really afraid of what next week may be.
Got a whole list of things that I've found that are really.
Chris, do you happen to have a young boy in your family? I feel like these are little kid facts. Dad, did you know you could fill up 5 bathtubs with spit in your lifetime?
Nope, that's the young boy that's still inside me. So.
And we love that little boy.
Yes, we do.
But it's all these things. The conversation is all about loving the body, which has been a beautiful adventure in that.
Well, and even just recognizing like oh God, we're talking about vomit. Like, oh, well, what's with that reaction? Right? Like
Right.
that's a reaction to the body. Like, I hate vomiting. And like, yeah, okay, you know, understandably. And yet
Yeah.
that's a really important function of the body.
Makes me feel kind of queasy right now thinking about it.
Yeah, right.
Do we not think about it?
but you know, I mean, like, it just, you know, kind of gets me thinking, like, how many things that the body does.
Yeah.
How many things do I experience? How many movements do I make that I'm just like, ugh, or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like, how often does that idea come up that it does feel like something separate. It does feel like something that could be less than,
Yeah.
you know?
And so
Yeah, it's an interesting path.
journey, interesting relationship.
Yeah. More to come.
More to come. So Chris, right now I'm going to put this graphic up.
Oh, yeah, throw me under the bus. I deserve that because that was definitely my fault. All right, so everybody, we're really excited about this. We had our launch for Second Sunday Experience just this previous Sunday, and it was a lot of fun. It was a powerful experience, definitely for myself, and so we're really really excited about it. This is kind of front in. It's a way to come together to celebrate all things spirit and developing community with that. So we've got some big visions of where this is going and what this can mean for communal evolution and creating community in your own individual life. And we really hope to see you there. So go to www.soulevolutioncollaborative.org and get all the info that you need there, and we hope to see you soon.